Below 6,000 meters, the ocean changes. No currents you can see, no horizon, no sense of direction, only depth. Few machines have reached this far, fewer humans, and yet, something is already here. Soft bodies, drifting forms, creatures that do not flee because there is nowhere to go. They remain in a world that should not allow them to exist. Welcome to Poseidon's Depths, where ancient ocean legends meet modern scientific discovery. Today, we descend beyond everything familiar into the deepest environment on Earth, a place that challenges not just survival, but the limits of life itself. It begins where the ocean stops behaving like an ocean. At around 6,000 meters, the seafloor no longer stretches outward into open plains. It breaks instead, suddenly and violently, into deep collapsing trenches. But narrow cuts in the earth, falling far beyond anything the surface can imagine. These trenches do not slope gently, they drop. Walls of rock descend into darkness, layer by layer, until even the idea of distance begins to lose meaning. This is the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld, not as metaphor, but as something closer to truth. Because this is not simply deeper ocean, it is a different kind of place entirely. These depths are rare. They do not spread across the planet like the abyssal plains. They exist only in isolated fractures, where tectonic plates collide and one is forced beneath another, dragging the crust downward into the mantle. Each trench is a scar, a place where the Earth is actively folding into itself. Among them, the deepest known point, the Challenger Deep, descends to nearly 11,000 meters. If Mount Everest were placed here, its peak would still remain far below the surface. That is the scale. And with depth comes pressure. Not gradually, but relentlessly. Every 10 meters adds more weight. Every descent increases the force pressing inward. By the time you reach the trench floor, pressure exceeds 1,000 atmospheres, more than a ton pressing on every square centimeter. Steel bends under it. Glass implodes instantly. Most structures do not fail slowly. They collapse without warning. Nothing built for the surface can survive here unprotected. And yet, despite the weight, despite the darkness, despite the complete absence of everything familiar, this is not empty. And it never was. Life does not vanish here. It changes, not into something stronger, but something quieter, more precise. The snailfish moves through the trench with slow certainty. Its body appears soft, almost incomplete, as if it were never meant to hold shape. Because here, shape is a risk. Rigid structures fracture under pressure. Hard edges become points of failure. So the snailfish does not resist the force around it, it yields. Its body bends, absorbing pressure instead of fighting it. Inside, the changes go deeper. Its genetic systems are reinforced, copied, adjusted, stabilized. Damage does not simply occur here, it is constant, and so repair becomes continuous. Every cell carries protection, not against an event, but against an environment that never stops pressing inward. Along the seafloor, movement gathers. Amphipods spread across the sediment in quiet numbers. They do not chase prey, they do not compete for territory. They wait, because in this world, food does not live here. It falls from thousands of meters above. Fragments of life descend slowly through the water. Dead organisms, organic debris, a constant drifting snowfall. By the time it reaches the trench, it is all that remains. And it is enough. The amphipods consume everything that arrives, leaving nothing unused. Inside their bodies, survival is chemical. Molecules accumulate, invisible but essential. Compounds like TMAO, stabilizing proteins, preventing collapse, holding structure together under pressure that should unravel it. Nothing here is wasted. No movement without purpose, no structure without function. Life is reduced, refined, to only what is required to continue. And somehow, that is enough. Very few have entered this world, and even fewer have remained long enough to understand it. In 1960, the Trieste made the first successful descent to the bottom of the Challenger Deep. Inside a small pressure sphere, Two men descended slowly through miles of darkness, surrounded by a force that could have ended the mission instantly if anything failed. They reached the seafloor, observed briefly, and then began the long ascent back to the surface. The visit lasted only minutes, but it proved something essential, that even the deepest point on Earth was not unreachable. And then, for decades, almost nothing followed. Not because the location was unknown, but because reaching it safely remained one of the most difficult engineering challenges ever attempted. At these depths, pressure does not fluctuate or ease. It remains constant, pressing inward with more than 1,000 atmospheres, testing every joint, every seal, every surface of the vessel. A single imperfection is not a weakness here. It is a point of failure. Building machines capable of surviving this environment requires materials engineered to extreme precision, hulls designed to distribute force perfectly, and systems that continue functioning even as external pressure pushes them to their limits. Even communication becomes uncertain. Signals weaken as they travel through dense water, and real-time control becomes difficult, leaving many missions dependent on delayed data and limited visibility. Modern submersibles such as the Deep-Sea Challenger and the Limiting Factor have returned to these depths, expanding what we can observe and record. But each descent remains carefully planned, resource-intensive, and rare. Time at the bottom is always limited. Every minute must be measured against energy, safety, and the long ascent back through the water column. And even now, after decades of technological progress, most of this environment has never been directly observed. Vast sections of the Hadal Zone remain unmapped, unexplored, and completely unseen. A frontier not defined by distance, but by resistance. Above, the ocean never stood still. In the midwater, squid moved with speed and precision, their bodies flashing with brief pulses of light as they hunted through darkness. They were built for pursuit, fast, reactive, alive with motion. But here in the trenches, that motion does not arrive intact. Only fragments descend. Occasionally, the remains of those same hunters drift downward, lifeless now, sinking slowly through the water column, until even the most agile predators become still. A final descent, connecting the restless world above to the silence below. Pressure followed us through every layer of the ocean. It began as a force we could measure, increasing steadily, compressing air, reshaping bodies, demanding adaptation. But here, it becomes something else. More than a ton pressing on every square centimeter, constant, invisible, unavoidable. It does not strike. It does not surge. It simply remains, an unseen presence shaping everything, from the chemistry inside living cells to the limits of every machine that attempts to enter. Elsewhere at hydrothermal vents, the ocean revealed a different kind of power. Scalding fluids rose from the seafloor rich with minerals, fueling ecosystems that existed without sunlight, drawing energy directly from the Earth itself. Those vents do not define the trenches, but they are connected. Both are born from the same shifting crust, the same tectonic forces pulling, folding, and breaking the planet below the ocean. Together, they form a single system, a vast engine of rock, heat, water, and life, stretching from ridges to the deepest cuts in the Earth. And then, there were the remains of us. Shipwrecks once rested in the deep as monuments, structures that slowly transformed into ecosystems, claimed by organisms that adapted them into something new. But here, even those structures struggle to endure. Metal bends, edges collapse, forms distort under pressure that never releases. What reaches the trench floor does not remain unchanged. It is scattered, reduced, and absorbed until it becomes part of the same slow cycle as everything else. And in that contrast, between what arrives and what belongs, the difference becomes clear. This is not a place we enter. It is a place we visit, briefly, carefully, and always on borrowed time. We have explored the surface of the moon more thoroughly than the deepest parts of our own ocean. After everything we've discovered, the real question is, what else is down there that we haven't found yet? In our next season, we begin exploring discoveries that may already be changing what we think we know. Subscribe to Poseidon's Depths and explore Earth's last frontier. Hit the bell to never miss a dive. What secrets will Poseidon's domain reveal next? Join us and find out.